How much does it cost to sell a property in Spain? I'm Michael Davis, a Spanish lawyer. Been in practice for well over 25 years now. And well, today I'm driving along, and as I had indicated in one video before, I've decided to make good use of my travelling, which I have to travel a lot in the car, to provide some information that I hope proves useful at least to one person. So if it makes one person, it provides useful information for at least one person, it's time well spent. Okay, so here I am today on my way to Cordoba, by the way, to sign an inheritance deed for a procedure that we've been handling for the last 3 months. I'm going to put the property today in the name of the beneficiaries. Okay, so down to business. How much does it cost to sell a property in Spain? Well, it depends. Are you a resident? Are you non-resident? So first I'm going to explain the situation as a non-resident, and then we'll do the situation as a resident. For residents, we have to listen to it carefully because there are certain exemptions that you can claim that are going to be of very interesting to a lot of people. So first let's talk about non-residents. If you sell your property and at the time of selling you are a non-resident, then the way it works is this. At the moment of sale, first we're going to talk about capital gains tax. The buyer is going to retain 3% of the sales price to pay it into the tax office on behalf of your capital gains tax. So if you sell your property for €300,000, it's going to be €9,000 that you are not going to receive on completion. That money is going to be paid into the tax office within 30 days of the completion by the buyer's lawyer. Once that's been done, you've got to get your lawyer to make a calculation of what your real capital gains tax is, and it can be more or less than the amount retained. The real tax is going to be calculated as 19% of the net profit. There are certain amounts that you can deduct from the gross profit. Your lawyer will go through that with you, work it all out, see what extensions have been done, see what you've spent. Some of those things can be deducted. And then you're going to be taxed at 19%. So if you say, for example, it works out the real tax is €15,000, then your lawyer is going to make a return, and he has to make it within 4 months of the completion and pay the difference into the tax office. If, on the other hand, there's money to come back, then you may wish to try and do that. So if it's a real tax, it happens to be €4,000, they will take €9,000, you've got to make a claim to get that money back. So there are certain requirements. The tax man will only make the payment back to the actual taxpayer's account, so you need to have an account in Spain, and you need to produce a certification from that bank in which it states that that is indeed your account. Before Brexit, we could provide an English account as well, but then you had to provide a certification of the account from the English bank. In other words, that's a certificate signed by the bank in which they state that that account number corresponds to you for them to actually make the payment once they've accepted the claim. It usually takes about 10 months from the date of completion before they make the payment back. After that, you can claim a small amount of interest as well. So, in a nutshell, that is the non-resident capital gains tax. Now, what happens if you're a resident? Well, if you're a resident, you need to make sure that if you're entitled to any exemptions, that you claim them. So, if you're selling your home, and it was your main home, it was a property where you've been resident for at least 3 years, then what you can do is, if you are over 65, you can claim a 100% exemption. Make sure that on the deed of sale you state that that is your main residence, because otherwise you will not be able to claim the exemption. Now, what happens if you are under 65? Well, if you're under 65 at the moment of sale, then you can claim an exemption as well, but there are strings attached. Basically, you sell, you have to reinvest the money in another main home within 2 years. Before Brexit, you could even sell here and buy a main home in the UK and it would still count. But since Brexit, that no longer counts. So you have to reinvest either in Spain or in an EU country. Now, you must get professional advice on your individual case, because all this needs to be done correctly to make sure you do get you do manage to claim the exemption correctly. Okay, so what happens if you're not selling your main home, or you're selling your main home but you're not reinvesting, you don't qualify for the exemption? Well, then you're going to pay capital gains tax at a rate, it's a sliding scale, it's between 19 and 24%. So that's basically it in a nutshell for capital gains tax. Apart from capital gains tax, there are some other taxes that you need to deal with, and that is Plusvalía tax. The Plusvalía tax to the local town hall. It's like a local capital gains tax. There's been a lot of playing around with Plusvalía tax. It was declared unconstitutional for a certain amount of time, at least the method of calculation. Then they created a new tax that has two alternative methods of calculation, and it's you and your lawyer that have to calculate in your particular case which one is normally is in your interest. So there's one system called objective calculation, which depends on the increase in the catastrophe value of the property. That is normally the one that is in your interest, and that is actually the old-fashioned calculation. But now, to get around this declaration of unconstitutional by the courts, they've now given an alternative method of calculation, which is based on the real increase in value of the property since you purchased it. Normally that amount works out more expensive, but your lawyer has to calculate it with both systems, because in your particular case, if you're selling at a loss, you can claim exemption from Plusvalía tax, which is going to be available to you on the real value method calculation. And if you've happened to have sold at a loss, let's say, for example, you purchased in 2007 and sold now, at the height of the market, they could still be selling at a loss, in which case, in your particular case, the real value method calculation may be in your interest. Your lawyer needs to calculate it with both systems, so they can then claim that he wants it calculated by the town hall in that method that's most favourable to you. Sounds complicated, and it is. So you need individualised advice from your lawyer. The other taxes and fees to expect on the sale will be a lawyer's fee, which I'm not going to go into that because it varies a lot. I don't want other colleagues to be upset with the numbers I produce, so just ask for a budget in writing from your lawyer when he handles the sale for you. And then the notary fee, in most places it's agreed that the buyer pays for the notary fee in full, and the same with the registrar's fee. Be careful, because if you don't establish anywhere who pays the notary fee, the actual seller by law would end up paying most of the solicitor's fee, the notary's fee. But it's custom to agree on the contract that it's the buyer that pays the notary fee in full. So notary fee and registrar fee would normally agree to be paid by the buyer. So if for some crazy reason you're not using a lawyer, be careful, because you can end up spending as much money here than you'd save by lawyer by simply not mentioning on the contract that the buyer pays for the notary and registrar fee, which is the absolute norm. So you've got the capital gains tax, the Plusvalía tax, the notary registry fee will be paid by the buying party, and you've got your solicitor's fee, which varies, so you need to ask for a budget. And the big one here also is the estate agency fee. Usually the estate agency fee is paid in full by the selling party, and usually it'll be anywhere between 4 and, well, as low as 3%, but normally between 4 and 6% plus VAT in most areas. Important that you've got a correct contract and that you know exactly what it's going to be, so there's no surprises. Exceptionally, in some Spanish areas where there's not many foreigners, there can be a different type of agreement on the estate agency fee, but in most coastal areas, it's the seller that pays for the estate agency fee in full. So, in a nutshell, what you're going to have is solicitor's fee that you need to ask a quote for, capital gains tax that you need to understand how much it's going to be, let the lawyer work it all out for you, the Plusvalía tax to the town hall, again let the lawyer work that out for you, and the estate agency fee if you buy using an estate agency. It's not obligatory to use an estate agency, so in your particular case, you could find a buyer yourself and go directly to the lawyers. It depends on, in most cases there is a lawyer estate agency fee, so you'll have that 5% to pay. I hope you found the video useful. So if things are any very different from what I've just said, there's something wrong, consult about it. As I always say, every conveyance is a different case, so and this is just general information. So for individual advice, contact us or any other lawyer of your choice, so they can actually advise you on your particular